Now we start with Sudan. The United Nations Human Rights Office in Sudan is warning of escalating violence in El-Fasher after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces seized the city last month. The UN reports that brutal attacks have increased in the past 10 days, turning El-Fasher into the city of grief. Civilians who survived the siege and conflict over the last 18 months are now enduring atrocities on an unimaginable scale, with hundreds killed, including women and children. Meanwhile, aid groups report dire conditions in Tawila, a town where thousands of displaced people have fled. Over 16,000 refugees are living in extreme hardship, with little access to food, medicine, nor shelter. Doctors Without Borders have reported that high levels of malnutrition among both children and adults in the area. The humanitarian crisis in Darfur continues to worsen as the conflict deepens. Now for this discussion, we are joined by Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us again. Good to see you. Doctor, now looking at the Sudan situation, how might this escalation in El-Fasher impact Sudan's political stability and prospects for negotiated settlement with RSF?
Of course, there is an impact, but at the same time, Rapid Support Forces is originally established from the armed group which try to crack down the rebellion in the Darfur, and that time they were notorious because of the committing many war crimes in Darfur. So that's why currently the Rapid Support Forces commit many crimes in the El-Fasher, which was a foreign city. So it is indeed understandable and very dangerous. If the, of course, international community was very strong bond, like the 1990s, when they tried to stop the atrocities of the Serbia-backed military forces in the Bosnia-Herzegovina or the Kosovo. Of course, under current situation of the Sudan is a very big problem for the international community. But now, for the international community, they are divided, the US side, China, Russia side, and at the same time, there are many big conflicts in Russia's invasion of Ukraine or the Middle East. And so that's why there are many conflicts in the world, including Sudan, Myanmar, others. The international community do not have enough power to intervene. So that's why the tragedy has happened, and this is a war crime, but at the same time, no one stopped it. It's a tragic situation, and someone must stop it. Of course, that's true, but at the same time, there is no power to do it.
Right. As you mentioned, there is no one to stop it, or no one capable of stopping it. Do you think there's any international community that could still leverage on diplomatic or economic pressure to prevent further atrocities?
Generally, the regional leading country can take charge of the issue in the region. Could happen. For example, in case of that is, for example, in the Northeast Asia, there are many big countries. In the Oceania, Australia can take charge, something like that. But in case of Africa, we cannot find such kind of greater powers than others. So that's why, indeed, there is no superpower to deal with. There is no regional power to do it. Both their lack of power is the situation. So that's why it is very difficult to deal. If there is if there is an organization to take charge, African Union could be the organization, but I think that their power is not enough.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Satoru for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now moving on, the UN Refugee Agency has issued an urgent call for greater international assistance as thousands of people continue to move out of Sudan's Darfur region into an overstretched Chad. UNHCR Deputy High Commissioner R. Kelly's statement Kelly State Clements noted that the arrival of new people need everything from a safe space to clean water to an ability to restart their lives. The influx into Chad is a direct result of the deadly rampage in El-Fasher following its capture by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. According to UN statistics, over 40,000 people have lost their lives so far, though aid groups warn the true death toll is likely far higher, while more than 11 million have been displaced, giving rise to the worst displacement and most severe humanitarian disasters. Now we welcome back Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Doctor, for staying with us. Now, building on your answer from the previous discussion and staying on this topic, do you think this, as you also mentioned African Union, there is this African Union, but African Union is so far incapable of contracting this. What does African Union typically do or is supposed to do as a union to look over entirely Africa entirely?
The force, military force consists by the many army of the African nations and maintain peace after the conflict is over. That has really made, in case of the Somalia or some area also, they try to be the peacekeeping force. But at the same time, their intervention is based on the armed forces of the Africa, means that indeed African nations are not so rich countries, so that's why what they can do is limited. Is because of the budgetary size, because of the equipment of the armed forces and training level also. So that's why the African Union cannot take charge. And in case of the impact of this issue is indeed big, because once the refugee has happened and huge numbers, they go outside of the country, and that place is, of course, that country face a serious situation because a huge refugee means that they cannot maintain law and order or control the region. So that's why if the huge refugee going to the Chad or the Libya, South Sudan or other area, of course each country try to take charge to care about refugee camp, but indeed it is very difficult to control, and the unrest situation will spread to the other country. So that could happen, and that is the reason the United Nations asked many international community to support countries affect refugees from Sudan. But at the same time, many countries in the world is still too busy to support other conflicts in the world. And now, in case of Sudan, they lack enough support indeed.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Dr. Satoru Nagao for joining us and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now, moving on, the United Nations